Hey, welcome back to my channel. Phil here. It's been 2 months that I last uploaded a video tutorial about Next.js authentication. So let's continue that video here. And as you can see here in my screen, I have here the authentication form, the login form. And what we're going to do is to make these two buttons below functional. Right now, if I'm going to click Google, I already click and nothing happens. Similar to GitHub, if I click here, nothing happens. So let's dive into the code and implement the logic to make these two buttons functional. Okay, so here's the code. I'm going to move a little bit down, and as you can see here, we have this function sign in as part of our callbacks in NextAuth. So for now, I'm going to remove these 3 lines here and just return true. This is to ensure that when we click those buttons, either Google or GitHub, those conditions will not interrupt with the login process. And we have this social component, social.tsx, created, located in source components OAuth folder. This is the 2 button that display under the login form, under the button login. You can see here Google and GitHub. The next thing we need to do is let's define a function here, constant on click, and we need to accept a provider. It's either Google or GitHub, and it should be one of these, Google or GitHub or GitHub, and it is a function. The next thing is we need to use this. No, just leave it there. There is a function under the NextAuth. We can look at our package.json for that. That function should come from this NextAuth. So let's remove that. It should be in that package, NextAuth/React. Then let's pass the provider given, and let's give an option here, callback URL settings, and inside if we go to our route here, which is located in the source directory, we have defined this default login redirect. So every time there is a login, it will be redirected to that page. So instead of typing settings there, we can copy this one and use that constant here, and let's import that from our route.ts, that one. And now that we have this function, then let's use this here in this button. Let's bring down this so that we have a clear view of the element. Then call the onClick. Yeah, that is correct. And then pass in the provider, Google. And we can copy this as well here. Let's bring this down. The same for this, and paste that there. and replace this with GitHub provider. Alright, now for the moment, let's add this alert. Log in with and the provider. Now back in here, if I click this, so there is an alert. Log in with Google. Log in with GitHub. Alright, now the next thing you need to do is to configure your GitHub. You need to go to the settings and go to the developer settings and go to OAuth apps. You need to add an application there. So earlier I created the NextJs app, and you can see here there are two here. This is the one that I created for this tutorial. But if you create the one, you need to add an application name. Like for example, this one, NextJs Auth tutorial, and then the homepage URL will be the localhost 3000 HTTP. In the authorization callback, you can go to your auth provider. So you need to go to API auth providers route, and it will be showing this. Right now we are seeing this tree here. This is what we are seeing. Now let's go back to the code and let's open the auth.config.ts, which is located in source auth.config.ts. Source here is the folder that serves as the root directory of my project. So in here, in the providers, we need to add Google and GitHub as the providers, and we need to import those in from Google, coming from NextJs providers Google, and the same way the GitHub. Alright, and then the next is we need to pass some parameters here. We need a client ID, and the value of that client ID must come from our env, that like that, client ID and the other one is Google client secret, and this needs to be inside our .env. So you need to define here. Earlier I said I already configured my GitHub in Google, so you need to define that in .env, and the value will be captured here. So let's do the same in the GitHub, and this time this one will be GitHub. Client secret. Let's check. So GitHub client ID, GitHub client secret, Google Client ID and Google Client Secret. So once you have that here and refresh this, you can see we have now Google, and we have here a callback URL for Google. We also have a callback URL for, and that callback URL, for example this one from GitHub, you need to use that here as authorization callback and then register your application. In my case, I already have, so that's what I did earlier. Though the same thing on the Google, you need to go to console.cloud.google.com and you need to find, if you don't have a project, you can create a new project. And once you created a new project, go to API and services. You can also search that, API and services. So go to API and services. Then once you are on the page of the API and services, find in the sidebar OAuth consent screen. And similar to GitHub, you need to provide information here. And since I already provided an information needed, Google will guide you to what information they need. So you just fill your email address, app name similar to GitHub, and once done, you can go to this client and create a new client. Actually, go to this client, and if you don't have yet an OAuth client ID, the first page that will show is the form asking information. Or you can create the client here. Similar to this, you need to tell Google what kind of application you are working and the name of your client, like for example Next.js Auth tutorial, then add the URI. You can put here http localhost 3000. There's no trailing slash, and here the redirect URL. This is your redirect URL, and then put that here, then create. So once created, you will have something like this, and here you can have your client ID, and you can generate your client secrets here. This is my client secrets, and put that in your .env. So once you already configured your GitHub and Google, you can now go back to the login page of the app, and let's try this GitHub here. Yeah, and in our code social.tsx, let's uncomment that line and remove alert. So either you click Google or GitHub button, it will call that function and pass and receive. Call that function, and this function will receive a provider, which is either Google or GitHub, and this will handle the login. Now let's try our GitHub, and as you can see, it redirects me to the settings page. It should be asking me about authorize this page from the GitHub, but since I already did that before this tutorial, so it redirect me directly to the settings page. And if we go to our Prisma, we can see here there is two tables here, account and user. It is loading. You should be seeing a record of the sign-in information. Since I log in using GitHub, and it captures the name, the email, and also the avatar, which you can see here. This avatar is also recorded in the database, and some information in the accounts table was also added during the sign-in. So you can see here, some information are also saved in the accounts table. So let's sign out and let's try Google. Google should ask you what email account you will be using to log in, and then after that you will be again redirected to this settings page, and you can see here is the email, the avatar given from the Google, the role user, and in the Prisma, if we refresh this users table, you can see a new record was added, and also in the accounts table there is a new record also. And remember, this database is from my local. You can also verify that record in Neon. You need to go to console.neon.tech, and there you go. This is the record that I have in the Neon.tech, which is similar to the Prisma Studio. This is the Prisma Studio run locally, and this is the database that is in the Neon, and you can see they are the same record accounts, they have the same. And that's how we can implement the OAuth, so that we can log in into our application using Google or GitHub or any other parties, for example. So that's it for this video, and thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.